Okay, you may have noticed a little red book showing up whenever you're looking and researching Mao's rule in China. For indeed, during certain parts of his rule, there appeared quite a few little red books. And so here's a really quick dive into what is going on with that little book.
China's Little Red Book. Quotations from Chairman Mao Zedong, 1964. There are a handful of books that have influenced hundreds of millions of people's lives over the decades, centuries, and millennium of human existence. Mao's Little Red Book, or Quotations from Chairman Mao Zedong, was one of these. It was a book of political and cultural statements based on the speeches, writing, and thoughts of China's communist leader, Chairman Mao Zedong. Mao was the Chinese revolutionary leader who, after leading a long-armed struggle, helped found the People's Republic of China in 1949. His book, Quotations from Chairman Mao Zedong, which became commonly known as the Little Red Book, was the idea of General Lin Biao. Compiled by the staff of the People's Liberation Army Daily, it was first published in 1964. The book helped promote even further the personality cult that surrounded Mao and his own brand of communism that became collectively known as Maoism.
There's a term, personality cult. You should probably know that. And that's where some sort of leader is seen as amazing, as worshipped as a hero. It could be sports stars. It could be religious figures. It could be political figures. It is highly dangerous in religious figures or political figures because the amount of power and the amount of willingness for people to follow when they're engaged in a personality cult. The leader can do no wrong. The leader is always right. People would sacrifice themselves and their family to obey and to please the leader. And this kind of power is very, very dangerous. They say power corrupts, and absolute power corrupts absolutely. I have to think very, very hard to find any time where a personality cult does not degrade into something dangerous or at least very far off the intended purpose.
The book would be printed by the hundreds of millions, and it got its name from the fact that it had a vivid red cover and was pocket-sized.
The little
The
red
idea
book
was for the party's faithful to carry it around with them constantly, so it was always ready at hand for them to consult and inspire. The book's slogan was, "Workers of the world unite," and at one stage in China during what was called the Cultural Revolution, it was almost mandatory to carry around a copy.
Now, workers of the world unite is a typical communist phrase.
The Chinese Cultural Revolution ran from 1966 to 1976 and was pioneered by Chairman Mao. Its aim was to rid communist China once and for all of the devils of capitalism and imperialist Chinese traditions. The final version of the Little Red Book contained 267 quotations covering 25 topics such as war and peace, unity, discipline, women, criticism and self-criticism, imperialism, and correcting mistaken ideas. One section was on how to be a good communist and citizen, stating a communist must be selfless with the interests of the masses at heart. He was to possess a largeness of mind as well as a practical, far-sighted mindset.
So it is propaganda, so a lot of it is pro-communist, anti-capitalist, anti-imperialist. That would, he uses capitalist, imperialist, the same meaning, basically like England in the United States. How the Chinese communists are good, and words to live by to be a good communist. A very strong propaganda piece.
Another stressed how everyone was involved. Intellectuals, students, soldiers, and the average peasant were to involve themselves in political work and study Marxism and Leninism. It was at first only distributed among top officials in order to get feedback. Then an expanded version was given out to the People's Liberation Army. Finally, a year later in 1965, hundreds of print shops were set up across China and it was made available to the masses. Because it was a simplified version of Mao's writings, the Little Red Book helped the peasants and workers understand Mao's ideas, therefore helping the widespread indoctrination of Mao's cult of personality and communist ideology.
And there's that word again, cult of personality. It is a book of all sayings of Mao, so when people carry it around, they say, well, Mao said this, Mao said that. To some people, it's their greatest education. And when I say greatest, I mean the predominant, most of their education comes right from that book. So the reading that they do for millions of people are from that book.
The authorities expected all loyal citizens to own a copy, and not only to carry it around at all times, but to actively read it on a daily basis for inspiration and guidance in all aspects of everyday life.
Now, whether it truly inspired the average person, well, let me ask you, do you want to be the person who doesn't carry it around? Do you want to be the person who doesn't appear to be inspired by it? If everyone is doing it, you don't want to be the one who's not.
Disrespecting or misquoting the book could get you in trouble.
There you go.
After that, it was actively promoted in communist countries. But when Chinese and Soviet relations started to turn sour during the 1960s, the book was banned in the Soviet Union. After Mao's death in 1976, his successors tried to discourage the book and its Maoist teaching.
But it's still around. It's still very, very popular. There, go on Amazon, $8, quotations from the Chairman Mao. And if you want it directly from the source, AliExpress from China, $6.50, free shipping. More than about 10,000 pieces available. So let's see if we order 8,000. Okay, don't order 8,000 because that's going to cost a lot of shipping. So just order one to get free shipping. Oh, that's funny. Just subscribe. They did that on purpose. So the whole idea of this video was about how the Little Red Book was propaganda and how everyone had to read it and how it's the cult of personality. And so right at the end, the video makers just say subscribe, just as an order. So they're not going to say please subscribe, but just like it was carry this book, read this book, subscribe. I like what they did there. That's clever. See ya.